All right, moving on to chapter 23, and the first lesson is 23.1. And we're talking about specialized tissues in plants. All right, let me get rid of this first. Enjoy the Gary Larson Far Side there. The goal is to relate, again, the structure and function of the major plant organs and tissues of physiological processes of plants. Moving on. Our objective is to identify the principal organs of seed plants, the primary functions, and the main tissues of seed plants, in contrast to meristems with other plant tissues, too. Have you ever wondered if plants are really alive? Well, yes, they are. If you look deep inside a living plant, you will find a busy and very complex organism. Plants move materials, grow, repair themselves, and constantly respond to their environment. Their cells and tissues work together in very, very effective ways. For example, the leaves of the sundew plant are adapted to actually capture and digest prey, too. So our first objective is to identify the principal organs of seed plants. As you should know already, the three principal organs of seed plants are roots, stems, and leaves, as you can see in this figure. The organs are linked together by tissue systems that produce, store, and transport nutrients and provide physical support and protection. So first, the roots. The roots anchor the plants in the ground, holding the soil in place and preventing soil erosion. Root systems absorb water and dissolve nutrients. Roots transport these materials to the rest of the plant, store the food, and hold the plants upright against forces such as wind and rain. The stem provides a support system for the plant, a transport system that carries nutrients, and a defensive system that protects the plants against predators and diseases, too. Stems also produce leaves and reproductive organs such as flowers. The stem's transport systems lift water from the roots up to the leaves and then carries the products of photosynthesis from the leaves back down to the roots. The leaves are the plant's main photosynthetic organs. Leaves also expose tissue to the dryness of the air and therefore have adjustable pores that help them conserve water while letting oxygen and carbon dioxide enter and exit the leaf too. So the principal organs of seed plants are, of course, roots, stems, and leaves. Objective 2 is explain the primary functions of the main tissues of seed plants. All right, you're going to need to know all these vocabulary words, guys. The three main tissue systems are dermal, vascular, and ground. These cross sections, as you can see here, are the principal organs of seed plants, so that all three organs contain the dermal, the vascular, and the ground tissue, as you can see by the coloration of them. Dermal tissue, first off, is the protective outer covering of a plant. All right? Dermal tissue in young plants consists of single layers of cells called an epidermis, like our skin. The outer surface of epidermal cells are covered with a thick, waxy layer called the cuticle, which protects against water loss. In older plants, dermal tissue may have many cell layers deep and may be covered with bark, too. Some epidermal cells have tiny projections known as trichomes that help protect the leaf and may give the leaf a fuzzy appearance, too. In roots, the dermal tissue includes these little root hairs, as you can see right there, that help absorb water, too. Next is vascular tissue. The vascular tissue helps support the plant and transports water and nutrients throughout the plant. The two kinds of vascular tissues are the xylem, which is a water-conducting tissue, and the phloem, a tissue that carries the dissolved food. Both the xylem and the phloem consist of long, slender cells that connect almost like sections of pipe, as you can see in the figure shown here too. All seed plants have xylems called tracheids. As they mature, the tracheids then die, leaving only their cell walls. These cell walls contain lignin, a complex molecule that gives wood much of its strength. The openings in the walls connect neighboring cells and allow water to flow from cell to cell. Thinner regions of the wall, known as pits, also allow water to diffuse from tracheids into the surrounding ground tissue. Angiosperms have a second form of xylem known as vessel elements, which are wider than tracheids and are arranged end to end on top of one another like a stack of tin cans, too. Unlike xylem cells, phloem cells are alive at maturity. The main phloem cells are sieve tube elements, which are arranged end to end, forming sieve tubes, which you can see right here, sieve tube elements. The end walls have many small holes, as you can see in there, through which nutrients move from the cell to cell. As sieve tube elements mature, they lose their nuclei and most other organelles. The remaining organelles hug the inside of the cell wall and are kept alive by the companion cells. The cells that surround the sieve tube elements are called companion cells, as you can see, right, those things right there. Companion cells keep their nuclei, as you can see the little nuclei are in there, and other organelles throughout their lifetime. After they mature and die, cell walls at both ends are left with slit-like openings through which water can move freely through them. Ground tissue produces and stores sugars and contributes to the physical support of the plant. It is neither dermal nor vascular. There are 3 types of ground tissue that you need to be aware of, though, which vary in cell wall thickness, and they are found in plants. There are parenchyma, thin cell walls, collenchyma, thicker cell walls, and sclerenchyma, which are the thickest cell walls here. All right, very, very thick cell walls. Parenchyma cell walls, you can see here, the main type of ground tissue, have thin walls and a very large central vacuole, surrounded by a thin layer of cytoplasm, right about there. In leaves, these cells contain many of the little chloroplasts and are the site of most of the plant's photosynthesis, too. The collenchyma, right there, have strong, flexible cell walls that help support the plant organs. And the sclerenchyma cell walls have extremely thick, rigid walls that make ground tissue, such as the seed coats, tough and strong, too. So our objective 2 was to explain the primary functions and the main tissue systems of seed plants. So dermal tissue is a protective outer covering of plant. Vascular tissue supports the body plant and transports water and nutrients for the plant. And the ground tissue produces and stores sugars and contributes to the physical support of the plant. And you need to know the types of these various ones, the parenchyma and the collenchyma and the sclerenchyma, all of the difference within each of these types of tissues. All right? So objective 3 is to contrast the meristems with other plant cells, other plant tissues. Apical meristems. Because the tip of a stem or root is known as its apex, meristems in these regions are called apical meristems. Apical meristems. Unspecialized cells produced in the apical meristems divide rapidly as stems and roots increase in length. So when you think about meristems and their unspecialized cells, you can think why they call them stems, like stem cells. The micrographs in the figure shown examples of stem and root apical meristems. At first, the new cells that are pushed out of a meristems look very much alike. They are unspecialized and have thin cell walls. Gradually, though, they develop into mature cells with specialized structures and functions. And as the cells differentiate, they produce each of the tissue systems of the plant, including dermal, vascular, and ground tissue, too. The highly specialized cells found in cones and flowers are also produced in meristems. Flower or cone development begins with the pattern of gene expression changes in a stem's apical meristem. These changes transform the apical meristem into a flowering plant or into a floral meristem. Floral meristems produce the tissues of flowers, which includes the plant's reproductive organs, as well as the colorful petals that surround them. Even the oldest trees produce new leaves and new reproductive organs every year, almost as if they remained forever young. The secrets of plant growth are found in meristems. The meristems are the regions of unspecialized cells in which mitosis produces new cells that are ready for differentiation. Meristems are found in places where plants grow rapidly, such as the tips of stems and roots. So our objective 3 was contrast meristems with other plant tissues. So meristems are the regions of unspecialized cells in which mitosis produces new cells that are ready for differentiation. So our objective for lesson 23.1 were to identify the principal organs of seed plants, explain the primary functions and the main tissue systems of seed plants, and contrast meristems with other plant tissues. Again, it all relates to our role, the structure and function of the major plant organs and tissues of the physiological processes of plants. And there's a cute picture for you this time. I didn't forget.